Okay, it's finally time. This is why you should pull Lappland Altar and Woman.
Creeper. Oh man.
The Lappland Altar banner is one of the most awaited banners since Texas. It brings us one of the most favorited operator altar forms, potentially power creeping Golden Glow, you'll find out later in this video, and one of the most interesting characters, both in gameplay and lore, and other medias. Starting with Lappland Altar, let's list an overview of what she's like. First of all, she's a drone caster. A little spoiler, but this is her skill 2 range and this is her skill 3 range. I won't be comparing these two too much because in my opinion they have different uses in some way, but I will be using Golden Glow I guess as a standing point to see where Lappland stands as a character on its own. Now let's look at Vulpisfoglia. One of her talents regenerates her health when she is not in combat, and a little spoiler again, but this is her skill 2 range. Will I be a little biased for this banner? Absolutely, I will be fully biased for this banner and I will glaze it with sunshine and rainbow cream, enough to blind a unicorn and make it puke.
Got our pickaxe swinging from side to side, side to side.
Lappland Altar is a drone caster. Drone casters are practically just core casters with a drone, right? Drone compared to core have a lower overall attack stat in exchange for a faster fire rate. Now, these drones will attack enemies alongside their casters, dealing 20% of the caster attack, though the drone attack can increase by 15% on subsequent attacks, able to go up to 110%, and it will reset upon attacking another target. Minus the fact that drone casters are weaker but attack faster than core casters, they do count as multi-attack. Now, this can be both good and bad for certain situations. In a Sid situation where you want the multi-attacks to more suit for the enemies or the stage mechanics, and vice versa, where you would want to use a more big burst damage to enemies and stage mechanics. But yeah, I wouldn't compare these two all the time. I'd rather focus more on the operator's kits and uses.
La 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 lava, chicken. Steve's lava chicken, yeah, it's tasty as hell.
Lappland's first talent makes her drones obtain one of the following effects for every 20 seconds Lappland stays on the field. Increase max drone damage by 10%, or dealing damage disables the target's special abilities for 2 seconds, or +1 drone. Now, I don't want to say anything, but this talent has some sort of RNG. I'm kidding. Well, not really. It's still RNG, but unless you're in need of only one of the effects and only have time for her to be on the field for one of the effects, then what the f are you playing? Other than that, after being on field for around a minute, she should be able to obtain all these buffs. However, redeploying her will cause her to lose all of these buffs, which makes it a little limited, kind of, but for most situations, you probably won't be needing to do this. However, if we put all the RNG aside and just pretend that she permanently have all these buffs, then yeah, the talent is pretty damn good. To start, a +1 drone is already a 33.3% damage buff since it's literally just another drone that does the same damage as the other drones. A silence ability to prevent enemy special abilities, which is okay. The only thing I'd really like to use silence on are just the exploding spiders, but extra utility is extra utility. Enemy special abilities are not that rare either, so it makes a lot of things easier for you too. And finally, the extra 10% damage is just a nice damage buff, and combining all your drones together, that is a whopping 40% damage buff, and a 30% buff if you get this damage buff before getting the +1 drone buff. Lappland's second talent will simply just give every single Siracusa operators a +5 initial SP. It's fine. If you're doing this Siracusan clear, then this is actually really good since all these operators can appreciate the +5 initial SP, giving you a really good opening by saving you 5 seconds. And yes, this does count herself, and she gets that initial SP for a good head start too. Also, she doesn't have to be deployed for this effect. It's basically bagpipe if she only liked one race. Overall, her talents are very good. Not like broken good or game busting good, but just good and works well with her character and her kit. Personally, I wish her second talent buffed Sirika-san in a different way, but initial SP still works. Definitely not me wanting her to pair extremely well with Tex Alter.
'Cause baby, tonight, the creeper's trying to steal our stuff again.
Lappland the Decadenza. Alter, skill 1, gives her 1 drone as a passive ability, and you know when Mountain does the switch thing? It's like that. Switching to her skill 1 form, she will gain a 35% attack boost and release all of her drones to attack AFK enemies. The drones will continuously attack a randomly picked AFK enemy until they either move or die. After that, they will go look for another AFK enemy. This basically counts as a global skill, since it doesn't matter how far the AFK enemy is. The drones will go hit it. Now, what counts as an AFK enemy or IDIL? It means the same thing, don't think too much of it. I have a friend who has a big problem with wording and I think it's getting to me too, but getting off topic. An IDIL enemy is an enemy that isn't moving on their own, like standing still or being blocked. However, if they decide not to move but are being shifted in any way without consent, they will not count as IDIL. Enemies that are in animation of any sort, like spawning or being revived, and they are technically not moving, will also not count as IDIL. But hostile devices do count as IDIL enemies. From first glance, it does look pretty good. It's one of those flex skills that you use for stages with these random IDIL enemies that you can just recall all your drones back if you need support or with your base defense. But something annoying is that it's really damn weak. A 35% attack buff really isn't that high, but it's not a bad thing. Well, low numbers are bad, but for her, the numbers are big enough to be pretty stable, since the drones are meant just to lock on AFK enemies anyway, and eventually grinding them down. Though all this does make this skill very niche, since the drones only attack AFK enemies, so you'll probably only use this skill on a stage with just a lot of AFK enemies. Overall, I think her skill 1 is a good skill and can excel her other 2 skills depending on the stage and situation. For example, where you constantly need global range damage to damage AFK enemies with a very short cooldown, or where timing is not challengeable with her skill 3, it's just something so flexible and stable is what makes it good. Upon activating Laptop Skill 2, we'll give her 3 additional drones. Her range expands, a whopping 120% attack buff, and with a 10% chance to inflict fear for 1 second after attacking. When the target of a drone dies, the drone will search for another enemy before returning to Lappland when the skill ends. Her skill 2 is, again, also a very versatile skill. Not only that she gets a massive damage buff, it also gives her 3 additional drones. Now, you might be asking yourself, why does it make it versatile, Stan? The reason is that it can do both single target damage and multi-target targeting. Let's say that there are 5 enemies in her range during her skill, 1 elite, 4 fodders. She is able to damage all of them at once, or at least more than 1, giving her the ability to kill more than 1 enemy and still do very good single target damage after all the fodders die and all of the drones focuses on the 1 elite. Other than this, it just does really good damage in general with a good range, and also if you get lucky you can hit the 10% fear. Even though if it's 1 second, it still disorientates the enemy's pathing, which is kind of a stall utility in a way. But if you know statistics, 5 drones attacking 1 target is basically a 50% chance to land a fear. And those drones are no joke, by the way. They attack fast, so the chances are reliable enough. Now, one issue I'd like to talk about this skill is the cooldown. Well, it's not really an issue where it makes the skill timing immeasurably bad, but an issue where it doesn't feel like it lasts long enough, but it also feels like it takes a decent amount of time for it to be back up. Looking at the numbers, it really isn't too bad, but to me, it just feels like there's not enough of it. Another actual not too concerning issue is that because of how drone casters work, after the drone kills something, it kinda loses that buff, but it's not an impactful issue, since wave enemies should just die from a couple of hits anyway. and the drones will continuously stick with a beefy target until they die, so it's not like they lose that buff. Other than that, her skill 2 is also, again, a good and a versatile skill, being able to be multi-target and single target with a stalling utility and a big attack boost, all packaged in a decent skill downtime. Yeah, it's not bad. It's a great versatile burst skill. Lappland Alter skill 3 will be her main skill. Upon activating this skill, she will gain 2 additional drones and an 80% attack boost. She will then let the dogs out from her location. Each drone will seek out the closest enemy with global range capability. Upon finding their target, they will lock on their target and inflict fear for 5 seconds. Enemies around the drone will continuously take 120% attack as arts damage every second and half the movement speed. And again, when the drone's locked on target is defeated, they'll seek for a new enemy from their current location. Now, that was a lot, but let's slowly break this down. She herself gains more drones and 80% attack boost before releasing her drones like this, and the rest is yada 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 with what I said earlier. But from first glance, it doesn't seem like an almost copy from Golden Glow, but let me tell you that it is not. I will explain this later, but again, from first glance, it seems like she gains a good amount of buffs, and the drones does a lot. Not only it does pretty good damage, the utility is also very good by disorienting enemy pathing with fear and just general movement speed debuff, as well as DOT damage, all packaged with the capability of attacking anything on the map. Now, it does have some not too concerning issues. First of all, notice how I didn't say global range there. Ha ha ha. Taking Golden Glow as example, Golden Glow skill 3 is global range, meaning Golden Glow herself can attack anything on the map. Lappland, on the other hand, she keeps her range but releases her drones around the map outside of her range. And why should this matter? Well, normally when enemies is near your blue box and Lappland is nowhere near, her dogs will not follow this rule, so tough luck. Golden Glow, on the other hand, keeps this target priority since her range becomes global, and I am not saying this is a bad thing. And like I've said earlier, it's not too concerning. But if you leave your blue box empty, don't expect her to save you. She doesn't care. Now, another issue I want to dive into is her massive cooldown. Like, 54 seconds is massive. It's similar to the likes of Wizardel and Mona, so in waiting for Lappland, imagine waiting for Wizardel and Mona. You can't really heli drop her in either, since the combined amount of her initial SP and her talent 1 is still 11 seconds. It's not long, but it's not short enough for you to clutch in some situations. You get what I mean. One more thing I do want to mention is that if there are no more enemies available on the map, the drones will kinda just linger where they kill their target before returning to Lappland after her skill. Overall, this will be her main skill for the majority of the time. Even with the long ass cooldown, everything or most things should be dead, which should give her enough time with a second skill up. Really good damage, global range kinda, a fair amount of utility with her slow and fear, and again, her drones will not care about enemies closing in the blue box if they are not close. 9 out of 10. Hour of the Wolf will be Lappland's modular device. Ignoring the stat boost, I'm surprised that she doesn't provide more initial SP. Other than that, all Sirikutans gain plus 10 attack speed after activating their skill the first time. And I mean, this is pretty good too. Also affecting herself, but the best factor is that the attack speed buff is permanent, as long as she is here or there. Another thing about this module is that her drone attack percentage is increased from 20% to 35%. Now, this is very important because without module, it's but with module, it's See? Massive difference. 8 out of 10. Skill 3. Skill 3 first. Even if it's a long cooldown, it is still so good. Very good at bosses, very good at waves, what's not to like? If you can hold off enemies whilst this skill is on cooldown, then level skill 3. For whichever skill you should level out of these two, I would say do skill 2 if anything. As I've mentioned earlier, skill 1 is cool. It's on a short cooldown, but I only really see it as a weak skill 3, and it's extremely niche usage. Skill 2 on the other hand, it's completely different to her skill 1 and 3, a stable anchor type of skill that you can use to just defend, I guess. Not to mention, it has good versatility and good burst damage. Also, 28 seconds is a fair amount of time to wait. For skill 1 though, I think you should level it if you really want to, but again, its extremely niche usage is very hard to find the use of. Who knows, maybe in future CC maps it could be very good. Ha, ha, ha. Yes, you absolutely should pull Lappland Alternative Identity even if you own every single character in the game. And 3 mansions. And
6 stars sold!
Yes, you should pull Lappland Alta if you are just starting a new account. She can practically clear everything for you. Yes, if you have been saving for Lappland since the invention of gravity.
But again and again, I love, I love, I love, I love, I love.
Vulpisfoglia is a pioneer. And if you don't know what the Pioneer branch is, then you either just started playing the game or you have never used Fang since the COVID era. Anyways, Pioneer Vanguards are slightly weaker guards, but their skill has the ability to generate DP. It could either just generate DP or generate DP with some effects or buffs. Compared to other Vanguard branches, they typically have more stats and block. However, this branch is pretty much useless in most endgame content, since their stats doesn't hold up and their DP gen is weaker than a lot of other options. It's tough for them to fit a role that they just suck at in endgame. Yato doesn't count. How many times have you used Yato as a starter and not just for her talent? Exactly. But is Vulpisfoglia different? Is she going to shine a new light on the Pioneer branch? Vulpisfoglia burst talent, after dealing any type of damage for the very first time to each enemy, she will deal an additional 30% attack as art damage, as well as marking them for 10 seconds. So obviously, she will mark an enemy upon dealing damage to them for the very first time, shown by the Vulpine Eyes mark that has a 10-second expiration date. One interesting detail that I'd like to point out is that the enemy technically doesn't need to be marked for her to deal the additional art damage. She will continuously deal additional arts damage as long as it's pre-mark phase or during the mark, and only stop after the mark expires. What do I mean by this? Shout out to Small, pointing out that she will do arts damage even without the mark. It is treated as a separate thing. Take Rat King for example. She is able to damage the barrier even though she does physical damage by default. Like I've mentioned earlier, she will keep doing this bonus damage effect when she hits an enemy for the very first time and will continuously deal bonus arts until the mark expires. However, in the end, this is very niche. It's just a fun, interesting fact. Vulpisfoglia's talent 2, while on the field, increases natural DP recovery by 10%. If this unit does not take damage within 4 seconds, restore 4 seconds of max HP every second. Sounds familiar. Her talent 2 makes her very cool. Being able to manipulate natural recovery rate is very fresh. Overall, her talents are good. Both her talents assist her in combat, also DP generation, which is what a pioneer should be. With her first talent being able to clear wave enemies very efficiently and going as far as elite enemies, though it can be tough with some elite enemies since her damage bonus is limited, but the 10-second is pretty long, so they should just die. And her second talent being able to assist in just general DP generation, making her a very good stage opener and also just healing, I guess. This is actually really good since she can technically just solo a lane by herself of just wave enemies. How many pioneers can do that? Light Punishment. Next attack deals an additional 290% of attack as art damage and gains 1 DP. Able to store 3 charges. A light punishment indeed. This skill is nothing much. I think it focuses more on killing and lane holding more than DP. And I think it's pretty much just an AFK skill if you're into that. That's it. Blade Pool Torture immediately generates 7 DP, deals 300% of attack as arts damage up to 6 enemies in this range, and slows them for 5 seconds. If the enemies are already slowed, stun them for 5 seconds as well. Because why not? And it is able to store 2 charges. This skill is pretty nuts. On use, she instantly gives you 7 DP. Actually, the DP is not a lot, but just keep listening. Deals 300% of attack at art damage up to 6 enemies in a pretty big range. So that is already DP gen and damage. But she will also slow them as an additional utility and will also stun them as well if they are already slowed. You see why she has 2 charges now. And just to top it off, this skill is able to hit aerial units. Not only all this, look at her initial SP. Oh. So that's how they balance this skill. If you want it to be used in its full potential, you'll have to wait a whopping 40 seconds. That's right, there is a downside. However, even with this downside, this skill is still insane for clearing wave enemies, drones, or even just for general damage against elites. When you activate her skill 3, she will immediately generate 9 DP, extending her range by 110% attack boost. Attack speed gradually decays from 180 to 0. Multi-target attacks based on her block count, and attack stun targets for 0.2 seconds. If she kills any enemy during her skill, she will gain camouflage when the current skill ends until the next skill activation. Unlike skill 2, this skill generates much more DP per cooldown, and instead of an instantaneous damage, this skill is what makes Vulpisfoglia herself strong. She gains a good attack buff and alongside with more attack speed. Even if it decays, it's still good. Since it's also multi-target, her stun is also good. Even if it's 0.2 seconds, it is still a strong effect that is capable of interrupting enemy actions. Though I do not think her camouflage is very good. Sure, she is practically invisible to any ranged enemies, but the effect isn't invisibility. There's a strong difference between invis and camo, where invis is like the character is not there at all, unable to be affected by AoE and such, and camo is just blind to the enemy's vision. I guess it's a nice side effect for any ranged enemies on the map, but other than that, it's fine. However, looking at her skills, they're all pretty good. Skill 1 and 2 is instantaneous damage, where skill 1 is more about just letting her doing her own thing, and where skill 2 is more crowd control like ability, also being able to hit aerial units, and skill 3 where it allows her to brawl with much stronger enemies. Her module just makes her do 10% more arts damage and more stat boost when blocking enemies. It's a good module for buffing her arts damage since wave enemies don't usually have arts resist. It's good. I am going to be honest here. I do not know whether you should prioritize skill 2 over 3 or 3 over 2. To me, they're both good in their own ways. However, in general use, I think skill 3 would probably be skill 2 just because of how much lower cooldown and more DP generation it is. But I think skill 2 is more fun, but do whatever you like with these two. Just not skill 1. I wake up in the morning, I got murder on my mind. Yes! You should pull if you have just started playing the game. She will open almost every stage with ease. Yes, you should pull, not because she is a character that redefines everything we've learnt up till now, but she is just very cool. And she's not a bad character either, so no excuses there. But the only thing that matters is, will I be pulling on this banner?
Are you kidding me? Nothing gets past my bow.
Hello everyone. Close your eyes if you are global only. Here's my bingo sheet for the next CN anniversary livestream. I really hope I get everything I want. Okay, it's safe now, global only people. And also, why did they choose to release Lappland so soon? I had to sort of rush this! Speaking of rushing things, the Minecraft movie was terrible. I think taking the aspect of realism into the world of Minecraft is fine, but the story just felt so bland. First of all the characters felt empty. Both the kids are just average pro tags, and I just can't be asked with them. And also the landlord lady, I swear to God, she is just there for like comedy effects and was only like funny twice. the gamer old man and Steve were the only characters who were just funny, ironically, because, you know, they're actually good. But they still felt a little empty, you know? The story as a whole was bad. It was never even about Minecraft. It was about the bland main characters that I just didn't care about. Do you know what I did care about? I cared about how Steve was able to obtain the Elytra. I wanted to see him fight the Ender Dragon, and they just off-screen the Ender Dragon. Like, what? The best part of the movie was when the villager in the credits started speaking English, and that actually got me pretty well. And also the lady and the villager go on a date, and when the waiter asked, "Are you finished?" the lady said, "No, I think he's Swedish." The joke was that, you know, finished sounds like finish. And yeah, I thought that was pretty funny too. Anyway, thanks for watching Lappland Alta video, and I hope they don't release the next character 4 hours after the Lap Alta event.